guys! Today I'm bringing you a manga tag video. I wasn't tagged by anyone since I'm pretty new at this whole thing, but I just thought it would be nice to give more of an idea of my collection and my tastes in manga. So the first question in this tag is, what was the first volume of manga you ever owned? And that's either going to be the first volume of Plus Anima, which I don't have anymore. I think I got it at a book fair in my middle school, so. Or it's going to be this volume of Fruits Basket, which is my other first manga series, along with Plus Anima. This is volume 12. Definitely the volume I've had the longest. You can tell just looking at it, it's kind of beat up. But, yeah, basically this was the first volume after I caught up with my library's collection of the series, and I couldn't wait for the next one, so I went and bought it. Yeah. First volume of manga also happens to be my favorite manga series to this day. So, the second question is, what is your favorite volume of manga in your collection? And I'm going to do two for this. The first one is, what is my favorite volume of my favorite series, which is Fruits Basket. And I went with volume 15. This is a really oddly structured volume. The first half is, like, super tragic and dark, and then the second half is, like, wacky comedy hijinks, but I love it because the first half of this book happens to be my favorite character, not just in this series, but of all time, Yuki, his backstory. It made me cry like a tiny little baby the first time I read it, the second time I read it, the third time I read it, and I still tear up every time I read it. I mention a lot that Yuki is my favorite character because, you know, when I was first reading this series in middle school, I was going through some stuff that was similar to him, though not quite as extreme, thankfully. And reading his arc really helped me out emotionally, and I really relate to him stronger than I have any other character. And so reading his backstory, and particularly what happens between him and Toru, that was such a moment of catharsis for me. So, yeah, and then the second half is really fun because it's sort of all of the high school characters doing their hideously miscast school play of Cinderella. And that's pretty funny because we have Toru as an evil stepsister and Kyo as Prince Charming. Yuki got stuck as the fairy godmother because of course he did. So yeah, pretty fun. And then my other favorite volume is going to be my favorite sort of done in one volume. I collect a lot of those. I like them. They're short, they're concise, they're to the point. And you can do a lot with a shorter series, I think. They're less meandering. And that's going to be actually my second favorite manga of all time, The Heart of Thomas by Moto Hagio. This is 3 volumes originally in Japan. You can see it's an omnibus. Beautiful book. I mean, just look at this. Look at it. It's so pretty. But, yeah, this is another book that means a lot to me. I actually just last semester wrote my undergraduate thesis on this book, if that tells you anything. Yeah, just beautiful, beautiful. Helped me sort of contextualize my own, like, sexuality. I am not straight, so there you go. But, yeah, of course this is BL, this is Shonen Ai. But it's of a different breed than the stuff you see now. It's very early. It was originally published in 1974. It's really interesting. It's historically important. It's a beautiful, beautiful story about, you know, the power of love in all its forms, and it's beautiful, and I highly recommend it. And who wouldn't want to have this book on your shelf? I mean, come on, look at this. Look at this book. The next question is, what is the most expensive manga in your collection? So retail, that's actually going back to this guy. This is, this was, like, originally $60 retail, but you can find it online for, like, $20 now. I don't think it's sold very well at all. So that's still quite a bit for a book, but considering the quality of this, $20 is not much at all. But retail, this was quite expensive. I got it as a Christmas present, so that was awesome. Thank you, cousin. You're so wonderful. But, yeah, my Skype is going crazy. I should have turned that off, but that's okay. And, in terms of what I've paid the most for, that's actually in the mail right now. It just shipped. I paid retail for Moto Hagio's most recent release, which is Otherworld Barbara, Volume 1. I think it's going to be 2 omnibuses. So that was $39.99. That was, I paid $40 for it. But it was very important to me to buy that book from Barnes & Noble and to pay full retail for it. Because I want to support it and I want to support Fantagraphics. And I wanted to get the book as quickly as humanly possible. This is not available on Right Stuff, because it is a Fantagraphics book, so yeah. I can't wait to get that, though. In terms of what's worth the most that I own, in terms of, like, used manga, which, of course, those inflated prices are completely artificial. This isn't the actual value of the book. If you've been collecting manga for any time at all, you would know that it's not similar to comic book collecting at all. These books aren't actually worth a whole lot at all. So if you're getting into collecting because you want to have, like, old manga that's, like, worth hundreds of dollars, stop right now. Get on with your life. That is not how manga collecting works. But in terms of what's going for the most online right now, it'd probably be my English volumes of Mushishi. I don't have the full series. I have 4, 6, 7, and then 8 through 10. But each of these volumes is, like, hard to find for under $100 at this point, which is completely ridiculous. But yeah, I got these before that. I think most of these I got at Borders when Borders was closing, so they were like $2. But yeah, I'm glad I have them. This is one of my favorite series. But yeah, expensive manga. Number 4, is there any manga in your collection you regret buying? I don't have very many. I only collect series I already really love, or know I'm going to love. But I have, you know, gone out and blind bought a couple of volumes, and usually that works out. I don't do it often at all, and I really don't blind buy. Usually I have done some research on the title beforehand. But in this case, I have a really low bar for vampire series, but, you know, a low bar for enjoyment because I just like vampires. So usually I like things with vampires in them. This is an exception. I bought Volume 1 of Bloody Mary on a whim because vampires and BL, and I like the cover. But I found this really boring, so I didn't really like it, but I'll probably be getting rid of it soon, so. Number 5. What manga in your collection are you the most proud of? I'm proud of all my manga. Like I said, I really only buy series that are really close to me, which I have a lot of series that are really close to me, but It's true. I love every series I have, except for, like, random volumes like this, which I usually try to get rid of pretty quickly. I like displaying my manga because it's like I'm displaying my entire heart for people to see, so, yeah, each of these series means something special to me. I would say I'm really proud of my collection of Fruits Basket, since I have the series both in English in the old Tokyo Pop editions and in Japanese. The new collector's editions, I recently bought the last 5 of those to complete it. I also have both fan books in English and the character book. The only thing I'm missing is the art book, which I'll get at some point. So I'm proud of that, because it's probably the longest series I own, and I own it twice. So, the other thing is going to be a recent edition, just because this is hard to find, and I was, like, amazed that I found it in such good condition. And that is Totera, all 3 volumes from Vertical. It's a really good series, and it's from year 24, which Moto Hagio, of course, belongs to, but Keiko Takemiya is probably the other big, well-known member of the group. There are quite a few others, but yeah. So I'm proud to have those, just because they're hard to find, and it was just cool to find something that rare at a used bookstore near me, so it's always fun to sort of find those hidden treasures. Number 6, how do you organize your manga collection? I organize my manga collection by author surname, sorry. Because in Japanese the surname comes first. Yeah. Author surname alphabetically. The exception is, because my bookshelf is crappy and actually tore in half. And I only have the bottom half to work with. I had to put these 2 makeshift metal shelves on top, and the top shelf only fits Japanese trade paperbacks, so I just put my Japanese trade paperback sizes books up there, which is mostly Japanese books, but also some Vertical books. The No Longer Human books and Devil's Line are both being published in Japanese trade paperback size, if you were wondering why they were so small. Usually Vertical says that's, like, a demand from the author, so yeah. And then the shelf below it really only fits English trade paperback manga size, so I put some of those there, which means those are a little out of order, but I deal with it. But otherwise, author surname. I tend to collect certain authors, so I like having their books all in one little section, just for my own peace of mind. Number 7, what is one out-of-print manga you wish you had in your collection? Okay, 2. 2 single volumes to complete my Moto Hagio collection in English. One is 4 shoujo stories. I already have her story from that, which is They Were 11 in comic book issues, but I want the book. It's so hard to find, but I really want it. And the other one is A Prime, which is a collection of 3 short stories from her. All of them are sci-fi, and that is also very hard to find for under, like, $70. So, here's hoping. I really want them because I want to have all of Moto Hagio's stuff in English, as well as in Japanese. I actually really want to get the original 3 volumes of The Heart of Thomas rather than the reprints, because the reprint just looks like this. It's the same as the English edition, and I want to have the original one so I can have 2 different editions, and that is really out of print, so been searching for it. That's how I want to own The Heart of Thomas in Japanese, so that is how I'm going to own The Heart of Thomas in Japanese, damn it. Number 8. What is one manga which you wish was translated into your native language? So I thought about this one for a while, and, you know, it's less what I want to read, because manga really isn't a problem for me to read in Japanese anymore. and more what I want to be available to other people, like what I want to be able to force on friends and stuff. And for me, right now, that's going to be another Moto Hagio series, first of all. And that is her Zankoku Nakami ga Shihai Suru, or A Savage God Reigns. It's 17 volumes long, but it's been recently re-released as 10 Bunko editions. And it's her longest series to date. It's also her most dark and depressing series to date. It is about a boy whose mother remarries to this guy who turns out to be this horribly abusive pedophile. The first half of the series is him abusing Jeremy, the main character, and that is really, really hard to read. And then Jeremy finally finds an out. He messes with Greg, his abuser's car, and Greg dies in a car accident, but, contrary to Jeremy's plan, his mother was also in the car, so she dies too. And then the rest of the series is him and his stepbrother, Ian, trying to reconcile the fact that Jeremy has murdered both of their parents, and Ian having to reconcile learning what kind of person his father really was. And they both have to reconcile their sort of growing feelings for each other. And it's such a haunting and realistic portrayal of this horrible abuse. I think Jeremy is one of the most realistic and honest portrayals of borderline personality disorder that I've seen in manga. And it's really more of a grown-up extended version of the themes that you see in The Heart of Thomas. So it deals a lot with sort of the nature of love and why love is important, and both the positives and negatives of feelings of love, infatuation, and obsession. I also like how Greg is portrayed, because you're not supposed to sympathize with him at all, but he is a complex human being, and you understand why he is the way he is, and some of it is just how he is as a person. He's got a temper that he never, saw anybody to help with. He just sort of let it go out of control, which, you can look into themes of male entitlement there, and masculine aggression being sort of idealized within society, which it does deal with a little bit, particularly with Ian's character. It's a really complicated, beautiful series. The art is so beautiful. Moto Hagio's use of surrealism is it's so gorgeous. Her dream imagery is just like, read it, please. Read A Savage God Reigns, Sankoku Nakami ga Shihai Suru. It's such heavy subject matter, and it is BL, and it is aimed at adults. It is quite graphic. So I don't think it'll ever have any chance of getting released over here, especially since stuff like The Heart of Thomas hasn't sold. But, one can dream. Also more Yuri by female creators. That is the other thing I want. Give me some Akiko Morishima. I want to read more of her stuff. Number 9, Omnibus or single volumes. It depends on the series, and it depends on the release. So, I guess what I'll say jokingly is that I want every book that I own to look like this. All of them. Hardcover, beautiful paper quality. Yes. But since that's not gonna happen, it's not realistic at all, I don't mind. Either way, I like 2-in-1s. If you get into 3 and 4-in-1s, that's a little much. It's unwieldy to hold. Unless sometimes if it's hardcover, like The Heart of Thomas, that one I don't find very difficult to read. But it is a hard book to just sort of slip into my bag, so that's kind of annoying. But, I mean, single volumes can be really beautiful quality, and omnibuses can be really crappy quality, so this is a 3-in-1, but it's got, like, newsprint, and, the ink, like, bleeds through to other pages, so yeah, it really just depends on the quality of the book for me. I want my books to be beautiful. But omnibus or single volume, I don't really care. I think my orange volumes, I wish those had been in one, single volumes or 2-in-1s, because having, 4 volumes in each one is a little much. But, I mean, I can still read them fine. It's just I'm worried about the binding with such a thick book, And then finally, number 10, what is one underrated or unknown manga you would recommend to others? So I can't pick just one, so I picked 3, which are 3 books that I have thought about when looking at other people's, collections and hauls and thought, oh, I bet they would really like this. But it's more unknown. The first one is going to be Dawn of the Arcana by Ray Toma. This series is 13 volumes long. It's a shoujo series. And basically, if you like stories like Yona of the Dawn, or The 12 Kingdoms, or Basara, From Far Away, that kind of thing, epic fantasy shoujo series. The World is Still Beautiful, Snow White with the Red Hair. There's a lot of these. But this is one that people don't talk about very much. But it is really good. It has a lot of interesting politics. Basically it's about this girl, Nakaba, who is the princess of Sinan, the country. And she is betrothed to the prince of a neighboring country that is much larger than hers. His name is Caesar, and he is, a super jerk. And basically it's about their relationship, and the politics between the two countries, as well as we get into this conflict with people like Nakaba's caretaker, I guess, servant, Loki, who, if you can see here, has little dog ears, because he is what is called an Ajin, or demi-human. So we get this sort of fantasy racism stuff, and the way that that's dealt with is actually really interesting. Really timely. I don't like the trope of, a racial or ethnic minority being, in a fantasy world, being portrayed as people with animal characteristics, because, that's, yeah. But if you can get past that, and just accept that he's a cute boy with dog ears, it is really interesting. He's an interesting character, very morally ambiguous, and what they do with him is so interesting. And I love the relationship between Nakaba and Caesar, because she is a go-getter. She's awesome. And initially Caesar feels, threatened by that, but eventually you get this beautiful relationship between them where he's, supporting her in her endeavors, and they're just sort of supporting each other, and it's wonderful. Yeah, there's a lot of adventure, there's a lot of, fun different countries they go to. A couple different countries. One of them is kind of based on sort of the Fertile Crescent, Middle East type of area. A little Persian, a little Arabian, you know. And that's really cool. And there's lots of cute characters with animal ears. So, the only issue is that the art is just kind of okay-ish. But that's fine to me. I mean, it's not bad, it's just not great. So, yeah. And Caesar's really attractive with long hair. I'm just saying. And then the next one I want to recommend is for people who like historical manga, like Vinland Saga. And that is Maria the Virgin Witch. This is only 3 volumes long, and then it's over. I actually like the anime better than the manga because it goes into some really interesting territory about sort of organized religion and female sexuality, which is really interesting, but the manga is also good. It takes place during the 100 Years' War and is about a witch named Maria. And basically in this world, she's in France. This takes place mostly in France. But in this version of our world, witches basically are employed by people on either side to, like, use their succubi and incubi, which she has 2 little owls. One of them is Artemis, and she's a succubus, and the other is Priapus, who is an incubus, to get all the generals exhausted and distracted the night before the battle, in order to try and sway the tide of the battle. But Maria is a pacifist, and she always goes against that code and summons large beasts in order to just stop the fighting altogether. And, basically, the heavenly hosts, specifically represented by the Archangel Michael, are not happy with her interference, and are not happy with witches in general. So we see this clash between paganism, regional paganism, and Christianity, which is really interesting. If the sex owls didn't tip you off, this is also like a really funny, raunchy sex comedy, but it is genuinely funny, and it doesn't demean or objectify any of its characters, regardless of gender. It's mostly just matter of fact. It's not fan-servicey, despite her outfit. There's actually a point to why witches dress like this, which has to do with those themes of the demonizing of female sexuality and witches as symbols of female deviancy and, specifically female sexual deviancy, which has, of course, existed for centuries. That ain't a new concept when it comes to witches. So, yeah, it's really great. It's sweet. Maria's a great heroine. It's very well researched. And look at these owls. Look at them. Oh, they're so cute. So this is great. And the final thing I'm going to recommend is for people who like short story collections and magical realism and surrealism and just beautiful, beautiful books. And that's going to be another Moto Hagio story. This is Moto Hagio's A Drunken Dream and Other Stories, also released by Fantagraphics. Beautiful cover. The titular story, A Drunken Dream, is actually in full color, which is gorgeous. But otherwise, this is a collection of stories that spans her entire career. So you can see stuff at the beginning that's from the 70s. Has that sort of retro style. And then stuff, let's see. At the end, that has her style now. And, a lot of these stories are just great. They've really stuck with me. Almost all of them I can still just think of in my head. This also includes two of her most well-known stories in general, which are two short stories. One of them is a semi-autobiographical manga called Iguana Girl, which is talking about her relationship with her mother, which, if you've read anything about her, is very strained. And basically in that, her mother always saw her as a hideous iguana, so that's how she sees herself, this girl. And so she goes through life thinking she's just an ugly iguana, but everybody else sees her as a normal person. And that's a really interesting way to represent that strained relationship, I think. And the other one is called Hanshin, and is about, let's see, conjoined twins, one of whom is beautiful but dumb, and the other one is brilliant but hideous. And so it's about that relationship, which turns toxic pretty quickly. And of course, that ends up being a commentary on the expectations placed on women in society, and what's valued in a woman in society, which is very interesting. That one's only like 15 pages long, but it's profound. So, this book looks gorgeous on your shelf, so I greatly recommend it. And then, who do I tag? I'm not going to go ahead and tag anyone because I don't know that many people yet, and yeah, so if you want to do it, you're free to. Nobody's stopping you. Go for it. Follow your dreams. Yeah, so that's just a little bit about me and my manga, so thanks for watching. Bye!